Hey guys, welcome back to Mss Effect Custom. So today we are going to repair this gun. I forgot who it goes to, but it is pretty much shattered out. So the person that contacted me, if I remember correctly, is in the Netherlands, and sadly, this is one of those items that you can't really, sell off broken and get another one cheap. It's a very expensive item from what I'm gathered. So we got to kind of repair this up. Usually when I talk to people and I tell people what's going on and how things are, I try to be a little bit honest with them with, shipping. Because, the way things are these days. If you're going to pay for shipping back and forth to me and the repair, is it really worth it compared to just selling it off and then getting a new one? And then try to offset your cost with selling the broken one on eBay. Sometimes some items are worth that money. Because, like, say, maybe the item is worth like $300 on eBay or $400, where, between the repair, the shipping back and forth, and all that stuff, and the risking of more damages, sometimes it's better just, cut your losses, sell that broken damage, use it for a fun custom piece, try to repaint it yourself, and then get a new one that's probably not broken, at a good price. But sometimes when you have an item that's worth, a grand or more, or it's very rare, or even if it's a sentimental item, you really want to get it repaired, then we go ahead and repair it. So, all in all, it's pretty straightforward, but I think from what now that I have it in hand, I'm kind of looking at it, I think they tried to glue it. So that's always a problem. Whenever something's broken and you try to glue it, it causes more issues. Because a fresh broken item without any glue makes things a lot easier, but when you put glue on here, it creates like, you have your broken piece and you have your broken piece. When it's not glued, it goes together fairly good. But when you put a glue on there, and if it kind of breaks again and you add more glue, you get this layer and it's not connecting as good, so you got to kind of fudge it a bit. So, as you can see, this main piece here broke, and you can see there is a lot of like glue up in there around the edges, so I got to kind of scrape all that down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create two holes, one there, and then we're going to put rods in to glue this together. And then this piece here goes like this, or I think this way, or I forget what, yeah, this way. So it's kind of, like I said, there's glue in there, and it's sort of not lining up the way I would want it. So, and then this piece here broke off this piece, and this one's going to be a little bit more tricky because you can see there's a really big glue piece chunk there. So this has got to be scraped off the best I can. See, like right now I could kind of maybe break it with my fingernail, but not really. So this is hard because I can't line this up correctly now. And if I put it in the wrong way and say I put it up this way or put it that way, it's a little bit tricky. So this one's going to be difficult. Like say, I don't know, does it supposed to go this way? Or is it supposed to go this way? I'm going to have to look at the picture and see. And then afterwards, it connects on top of this piece here, like so. So this piece is broken off okay. So this one's going to be a little bit easier to kind of connect. So that should be fine. And then over here, there's a little bit of the front piece broken off there. That's going to be a little bit tricky. I did tell them too that because this is broken and the way I got to repair it, I'm not convinced I can match it 100%. But see, there is some decals here now. So I'm going to try my best to kind of fudge it as best as I can. But he's okay with that because sometimes, when you get these broken items, there's only so much you can do. And sometimes you got to kind of fudge it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in the garage. I'm going to kind of work on this section first. And I'm going to try to get this section too as well while I got some Aves. I'm going to try to clean up a lot of this. Get a lot of this glue off of there. Kind of scrape it up. See if I can sort of get this back to some way lined up. And then what I'll do is I'll also Dremel a hole there and there, and then we'll kind of get this attached, and hopefully I can line it up in a way where it's lined up pretty good. So like, because there's glue there, you got to be careful now, because if you glue it wrong, it could be bent like that. But if you glue it wrong this way, it could be bent down. So it's a little bit tricky, but we'll get it there. So let me go in the garage. Let me get this kind of cleaned up, and then we'll come back and see what I can do. Okay, so I went in the garage and I chopped up a lot of the glue. I was able to get some of the glue off of these pieces a little bit easier. I did Dremel holes through these pieces. I don't know how well you can see it. So we could put a rod in there, but I gotta be careful not to put a rod too far because I'm gonna have to put some rods in here to attach it to the top. This one was a little bit more difficult because what happened was a lot of that glue was very hard to sort of scrape off and then line back up. So there's sort of a gap there now. I had to kind of take a lot of that out. I had no choice in that. But I realized that I cannot glue this piece together now without lining this up correctly. So this glue came off fairly easy. So this piece kind of connects here pretty well. Even though I'm going to have to get in there and kind of clean it up a little bit. But at least this way, if I get this piece on here, that's going to help me line this up correctly. Because you can see now that there is a fairly big gap there. So that's just what I have to do. So I have my glue and I have my Instaset. This is basically my go-to for all my repairs and statues. So anyone who's new, pick this stuff up. I always pick up the gel glue. Always get the gel glue because this way it doesn't bleed. And I'll show you right now. So basically I'm just going to get this piece on. I'm not really too worried about this piece connecting that much, only because it just needs to be a placement for now. So I didn't put that much glue on there, just enough. And let's make sure we put this piece on correctly. And just kind of line it up like that. If it kind of squeezes out a little bit of the edging and stuff, I'm not worried. Because like I said, I got to get in there and clean this up. There's nothing I can really do about it. So, and then we're going to take some Instaset. And this sort of just kind of helps it set up instantly. Now, as I've always said before in my videos, if you are using super glue, what happens, and it did happen on this one, I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if there's a spot. I think I kind of took it off. But what happens is when you use super glue and you have like a black paint or a darker area, the super glue creates a haze because of the fumes are so strong. So if you were to glue these two pieces together, right, and you can kind of see a little bit of the haze, like kind of a little bit of that haze kind of going off that edge there. That's from like super glue. BSI gel sort of has a haze, not really, unless you really put down a lot. But I really haven't had much of a haze problem there. But if you use Instaset, what happens is it kind of sets the glue instantly and it kind of puts liquid around and that haze doesn't really gather everywhere. So if you're ever gluing stuff with super glue and you wonder why there's like a black haze, like a white haze all over your item and you can't really get it off, that is why. So be very, very careful with that. So this sort of has to be lined up like so. So there is a gap in the middle. I got no choice with that. So okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to, hopefully we can line this up. So this is metal rods, brass rods. You can use whatever kind of metal rods you want. If you're into using like paper clip rods, or if you have coat hanger rods. I like to go to hobby stores or even like even hardware stores. Sometimes they have a lot of these long rods. They're really thin, thick and stuff. They might be a little expensive, but honestly, for me, for all the repairs I do, they're really good to have. Alright, so this one I cut a little too short. Just trying to see if I can cut this in a way where it sort of helps push it to the edge, but not too much. But there is a second hole here too, but we'll see in a second how this goes. Okay, that actually kind of fits perfect. So as you can see how there's a gap there now? That's because I had to drum a lot of that out. There was so much glue and there was so much stuff around there. I just could not see where the cracks were. And I think some of it was actually, I don't know, I couldn't really tell. So it's better just to kind of build it my way and do it how I would normally do it. So with this one, second one, I'm going to cut this here. I think this is a little too long, so let's cut just a little bit off of this one. Okay. So it's falling all over the place. Okay, make sure we got these in there. Okay, that looks pretty good. Alright. So I have some AUs I was working on some items, so I'm going to use AUs to sort of... Now if you don't have AUs, you could use glue if you want in these. There is nothing wrong with that. You just gotta be careful of the bleeding effect and making sure things don't kind of go all over the place. But I'm going to still use glue in the middle of this, but you'll see, just to kind of hold it. What I did do is sometimes if you Dremel this out and it gets a little too dusty in these areas, you got to kind of clean those out. So what I like to do is when I got rid of my iMacs, one of the iMacs, the older one, I'm setting up for my godchild, so I gutted it open and I got one of those blowers off of Amazon for computers. But it's a really nice blower, so since I really don't have any computers anymore that I have to open up and blow out, because I have the Mac Minis now, I use that in the garage to kind of dust off my statues. So it's a really great item to have. The only problem is you got to be very careful because it's got a lot of power to it, and if you have something that's fragile or you're trying to blow off a table, it'll go. So I usually keep stuff in my hand and blow far away. So it's one of those things that's good to have, especially if you want to dust off your item after sanding or drilling or whatever. Okay, so take our rod in here like that. Put this one in here like so. Alright, now, I'm hoping this works. Sometimes it's hard to do this sort of like while filming and also on my own. If I ever really had an item where when my friends have a get together, I needed help with something, I'd ask them. But most of the time I try to do this stuff on my own. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple dabs of glue on this part right here. And I don't care if this is sort of messy, because it's going to get Dremeled out anyway. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to put a dab here, and I'm going to put a hard dab in the middle there. See how it's kind of like sticking up? So, and I'm going to hope this works. Now, what I want to do too is get my Instaset in my little splunger piece thing here. This thing here. Just have this on the side. Don't want to hit this just yet. So let's hope I can get this lined up. Sort of set. Okay. Don't move on me. Stay there. Oh, you're moving. Okay, we got a nice good line. Looking good. It needs to sit there. Okay. Now I'm going to pray to God that this stays good for a while. So I'm going to leave it like that. The goal is to sort of not mess with it. I would love to put like another dab of glue in the center there, but since there's Instaset, if I try to hit that piece of my glue tip in there with it'll clog it up. Plus, I want basically the glue is just there to hold it and let that eaves sort of kind of line up. There's a little bit of this eaves is sort of sticking out here, so it's kind of. So if all goes well by tomorrow, I'm going to go and put this on the shelf. I'm going to lean it like this. And if all goes well by tomorrow, if everything's good, what I could go in there is I could go in there with my Dremel tool, a really fine tool, kind of Dremel some of that glue out of there, and then get some more Aves and kind of shove it in there and kind of rebuild that area the best I can. And then if all that works out pretty well and I kind of clean it up and everything, it should be just built up enough where everything is secured and it shouldn't go anywhere. But you could kind of see this part down here sort of didn't line up perfectly, but it's kind of messy. Let me make sure it's a little bit not perfect. Let's see if I can. Yeah, that didn't line up exactly where I wanted it. So let's see if I can kind of cut this a little bit. Okay, this kind of lines it up a little bit better. Alright, yes, so I figured this would be a little tricky. Alright, let's try this again. Like I said, this is going to have to be rebuilt up as best as I can, but let's put some glue in there like so. The Insta-Set dried up pretty well just now, so it's not too bad. Yep, that's lined up a lot better now. Okay. Alright, so we have a little bit of an issue. Some of this Aves is sort of in the way of the glue. So what I need to do is let this dry, but you can see that metal rod up there, that little hole there area. I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and then I'm going to go in there with some glue and squeeze in there and hit it with Insta-Set, and that's going to like let it cure up overnight, because it's going to keep like, it's not going to stay perfect where I want it. And then it should be able to be set up. So I'm just double checking to make sure. See, it's kind of wobbling a little. Need to get glue in there. I'm gonna use my old glue bottle. This one's pretty much done anyway. Screw it. So if this gets a little clogged, I don't care. And like I said, I don't care really if I get a little. Let's grab this piece here. Okay, that's going to hold. Now you can see it's, I'm looking at the line, so we're lined up pretty well. You can see how messy it is in there. I don't know how well you guys can see all that glue. Not really worried about that being messy. Like I said, I'll get in there with my Dremel tool tomorrow, Dremel out, because what's going to happen is the Aves is going to sort of help bond those two rods together, so I'll have a little bit of freedom to sort of kind of get it together and sort of bend it. But right now, if I keep messing with it, I'm going to just break it off and stuff, because the problem is if you put too much Insta-Set and you too much glue, too much Insta-Set, you're just kind of like having Insta-Set soak around all that material, and no matter how much glue you put on there, it's not bonding to the area, it's drying before it even gets there. So, but it's good enough for now. So with that being said, we'll leave that there. And then I'm going to have to do the same thing with this. I'm going to do this off camera. Well, actually, yeah, this whole centerpiece, see how it's all like cracked in there and it's all just destroyed? I have to come up with my own little take on this. So I have to find out, is it supposed to go this way? Maybe I could, let's see. No, it's supposed to go this way, I think. See, it's broken so much that and then I drumbled it out, so I'm thinking it's going this way. Alright, I'm going to do some research because I have to see, is this piece supposed to be up top or is this supposed to be up bottom? And then I guess when I go look at the pictures the client sent me, I'll know a little bit better. So let me go check that out. I'll be back. Alright, did my research, found out how it's lined up. So we're going to take some A's, try to get this glued into so I can put these off to the side. So what I like to do, I like to put the eaves in there. I mean, you could, like I said, you can use glue, but for me, eaves just feels better to kind of really cure it in, and you know, and we want to make sure it's secure too. We don't want to do it half-assed. So that's that rod there, and I'm going to cut it about here. Hopefully that's not too short, but not too long, and that should be good. Just helps that weak point, I guess you can say. Alright, so this one's a little bit trickier, but this one's also going to be kind of a pain to clean up. Okay, so this one, like I said, it's gonna be messy around that centerpiece when we glue it. But then tomorrow I'll Dremel out, put some A's around it, kind of seam it up a bit. So for this one, we'll put glue around here. Make sure we got our Insta-Set in a little thing here. It's enough in that tube. This goes in this direction, right? Yes. Because this gets glued on there and it gets attached to there. Make sure we're lining up pretty good. Actually, I had some Insta-Set residue on there by accident, but that's going to, I guess, help it a bit. Line up. Okay. Alright. Line up as best as we can. And like, say if for some odd reason, sometimes if you're lucky, I got this lined up pretty good. Just say for some odd reason, you did this and it was off center. It was kind of off to the left. What you could do is you could Dremel around here till you get down to, you get all that glue out of there and you get back to that metal rod. And you can actually use that metal rod since it's soft to sort of bend it a little bit. And then you can put some glue in there and sort of kind of get it back to where it's at and clean it up. It's tricky for what to explain, but if you have the rod glued here and you have the rod glued here, you have sort of like a give, you know, with the rod bending with that ease in there. Or even if you did a lot of glue and you could kind of get something back. There's a lot of times when I glue arms together on the statue or a leg or even pieces like this, if this broke off and it was like missing, I can kind of like ease it together and then sort of kind of bend it and go where. That's kind of why I like to use like brass rods like this and soft, because sometimes if you use paper clips or harder metal, it kind of, sometimes if you bend it, it wants to kind of go back to where it's at, you know, because if you want to just bend it a slight bit, the brass sort of helps bend it and it goes that way, if you kind of understand what I'm saying. But I lined this up pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. So I'm going to kind of move these over to the shelf now, let them dry for the night, and then we'll come back tomorrow and we'll kind of keep plugging away. Okay, it is the next day, and what I did is I had a Dremel tool, and you could I don't know if you could see it sort of like at that angle. I went with the Dremel tool, and I went all the way around the edging, just to kind of clean it out. So we're going to put some A's in there and stuff. So I did notice, though, even though I lined this up pretty straight, this part is off to the edge. This is actually a casting issue. I can't really fix that. So you can sort of see it's kind of sculpted all the way this way. So that's something I thought I because when I picked it up, I was like, oh my god, I went the wrong way. But then when I closed it from there, I realized I straightened it, but this is actually something off. So there's nothing you really could do about that unless you want to rebuild it, and I don't think we're going that far. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with it. I just realized that there is a chip here on this finger I'm going to have to fill in too. That's not something I did. I don't think so. But anyway, we'll get that repaired. So I got some A's mixed up. Also, you can see I drummed out around this piece here. I don't know how well it's in the camera, so you can kind of see a little bit of an air bubble. So you see the rod there now? If I was to bend this, I could bend this around. But once I get some A's in there and I lock this in, it'll be pretty good. So I'm not really too worried about that right now. So I'm just going to pop on some music. I'm going to sit here and do nice carefully. I got like, you know, these dentist tools. I actually found them again, and I picked up extras because this one's so old. So basically what I'll do is I'll put A's in there, kind of fill it in, and then use my paintbrush, fill in this area and get this kind of like seamed in as best as possible. I chipped out a lot of the glue and stuff that was at the bottom of this piece here, and I'll fill that in. So it's a little bit at a time, just kind of fill it in. It's not really a brain surgery right now, it's just a matter of getting this in there. But like I said, I'm going to have to sort of kind of create my own little like notches and kind of blend stuff together, because I don't really know how this exactly was here. Because it was such a weak point. Looking at the pictures too, I don't really see much stuff close. So I'll just fill in the best I can and kind of rebuild it. But it's pretty tough now. I don't see any really issues. I don't see anything sticking out. This might just be a little piece of fuzz. So yeah, I'm just going to fill that in. And then after that, I'm going to go with this one as well. And then let that cure up. And then what I'll probably do is start planning out how to get this one on. Because it goes like this, as you can see. So like I said, that one cracked pretty well, but I think if I'm good enough, I can get like a rod in there and I could kind of attach this and make sure it's lined up correctly, and then after that, just start touching up all the paints. Alright, so what I've been doing is this next day, and I went ahead and I kind of sanded all this down. I had to get in there and kind of really clean it up as best as I could. So I have, you know, nail file stuff, so I was kind of making this part all nice and straight. I had some sandpaper to kind of clean up this area here as well. And I also have this dental tool where I kind of went in and scraped some stuff and I got stuff cleaned up. So a little bit dusty, but it's pretty much ready to go. What I'm going to do is, I was going to attach this piece here, but then it would be kind of hard to get in there. So I also drummed out that area too, so I'm going to attach this afterwards. So what I'll do is, I got some paint, you know, I got some metallic dark steel and some black metallic from Vallejo. So I'm going to kind of like spray this stuff down best I can with the airbrush, just to kind of get in here. And then after that, I could kind of touch it up and match some as best as I can. And then after that's done, what I can do is go ahead and attach this piece on, let it sit, and then kind of touch it up from there. Because to try to put this on there now, let it dry and get underneath here, because this is actually, from what I can tell, this was glued in. So this was actually glued in and stuff. So it's just a matter of kind of touching up. So I'm going to do this over here real quick. So hopefully this works out pretty well. Airbrush isn't too clogged, so I'm going to use some of my black metallic first, which is probably as close as possible. And I'm just going to lower the pressure a bit. I figured I'd just do it this way with the airbrush because it'll go on a little bit smoother instead of trying to sit there with a paintbrush, and then I can go in with the paintbrush afterwards. Because it's I kind of lucked out where it wasn't as damaged up around here, so I'm not too worried about that. But I can still go in and kind of hit it with some color afterwards. But for right now, let's just kind of get most of the area in there. And like I said, I'll fudge it up on my own. Kind of blend it out. And this finger is wasn't metallic. Meaning it wasn't that silver metallic. Kind of spreading a little bit thicker to maybe fill in any scratches, because it's hard to get in there. It really is. But we'll let this kind of dry up, and I'll come back to it later. It's the same thing here. Now with this one, since I'm not really have this specific color, kind of just hit the whole area. But I'm going to do some like how you see how that's like silver there and stuff. So what I'll do is I'll do some like dry brushing later once it's all attached, and kind of give it some weathering. But that kind of looks pretty good now that it's not broken and nice and even. So we can put that aside. And then like I said, I'm going to let this dry up, or I'll hit it with a blow dryer. And then kind of see if I need to touch anything else up. It's not going to be 100% perfect because some of the stuff it's kind of hard to tell exactly where it was supposed to be. But yeah, I'm going to hit it with a blow dryer real quick, and we'll come right back. Alright, hit it with a blow dryer. Get my magnifying glasses on now. There's a spot that I couldn't get with paint, but we'll do it. So what I did is I got my black metallic, we got the dark steel, and then we got some light steel. So I put it on here in the thing. So there's a spot over here that if I did it with the airbrush, it wouldn't have hit. Okay, so now we got some of this dark steel, and we'll see how this kind of do some edging around here. Sort of give it a little bit of weathering. On the edges. Then we got some of this light steel. Do a little bit more. There's also a spot over here I have to get with the black paint. Sometimes you can't get there with the airbrush. But the reason I'm doing this is kind of any kind of imperfections that it was just too hard to get in there. Kind of just weather it up a bit, I guess you can say. Oops. Just kind of. Like whenever you do a repair, sometimes you just gotta do your own little take on it as well, instead of trying to match the factory. Because let's be honest, factories, when they paint stuff, like if they do like 3,000 of these items or 400 of these items, they're pretty much similar, but they're never going to be exactly the same. You know, Somebody who's painting this might get through, like, say, 100 of them for the day or 300 of them for the day, and then you got like another 200 the next day. So someone might do a little bit different type of a work. So, you know, you don't always have to sit there and be like, ah, it's got to be exactly like the factory. It doesn't. As long as it's repaired, and, you know. So I'm just kind of taking some of these colors and bringing it down the edge here a little bit. You know, kind of weather up around here. So it kind of just kind of plays into it a little bit more. And that's the other thing too, is, you know, don't be afraid to have fun with the item. It can make it pop a little bit more, and, you know, just weather it a little bit more, add more metallics. Because, like, sometimes you never know, like, all this black metallic might be the same black metallic on some of the other items or here, and you could always change the colors and do what you want. It's just easier to do repair, and you bring those colors all over the place. It just makes it a little pop a little bit more too. I'm going to hit it with some dull coat though to kind of take it down afterwards. But there's some more spots here I got to get into. So you can kind of see where we're at, you know, kind of fixing it all up. And then with this piece over here as well, can't forget about this one. So we can grab some of this light steel, kind of do around the edge a little bit, kind of do a little bit around there, a little bit over here, take a little bit off this edge here, there, and just kind of play with it, get a little color, and then won't really ever know it was repaired. So, yeah. So, next step is I'm going to hit this with some Tester's dull coat on my airbrush over at the airbrush booth, and after that we're going to come and we're going to attach this piece. I think we get that piece on there, and it should look pretty good. Now these fingers have a little bit of blue in it too, so these gloves. So I got to get a little bit of blue on this tip here, so we'll do that as well once we get this piece on. Then afterwards I got to figure out how I'm going to, like, do this top piece here and kind of fix that. It's going to be a little bit tricky, but I'll have to figure something out. I'm not really seeing any other chips or damages. A little bit of a chip here, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of a purplish type of metallic. We'll kind of get into that, but I'm not seeing anything else that's damaged per se. Okay, so let me go kit this with the dull coat and then we'll come back. Okay, so we're going to glue this piece on. I went ahead and I flat coated it, so pretty much cleaned it up. I'm probably going to have to go a little bit more. I gotta probably sand it down a little bit more. We'll see. I gotta let the paint dry. Might have to do another little run at it, but for now we can kind of get this piece on. So I have some of this flat steel. Now, because this is a small area, I'd rather have a flat piece of steel, not steel, brass holding this, because if you put, I tried to drill 2 little holes in there, and what happened, they kind of connected to each other. So it's better to put this in here, so this way it'll be a little bit more secure. You'll see in a second. So I got some A's mixed up, got my glue. So I'm going to go ahead and sort of, this is a piece that was kind of shaved down already from before, so it'll be a little bit easier. So we're going to cut it like right about here and make sure it's going to work first. About there. Hopefully, cut it too short. That's okay. We can cut another piece here. A little bit higher. This here, and just to double check, just to make sure that this piece is going to work. It's too high. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to cut it off on the edge too, just to kind of take some if it works. There we go. Always double check your stuff too. Don't just cut it and then start gluing and everything. Make sure that this piece is, yeah, that should work. Alright, so got some A's. Get a little bit closer. If this had more, if it was sort of higher, if this didn't touch purple to purple, like metal, meaning if this was like a little bit higher, then I would probably do what I did before, like here, and kind of like fill in later. But since this is supposed to be on top of it, like so, I'm not going to use that much glue. So, just enough glue to sort of kind of help glue it on a little bit, you'll see. But we need to, these will be better for the long run. Make sure this is secured. If I can get it off my finger on there. There we go. I like A's for most of the repairs as much as I can, because once it's cured, it locks in better than just like gluing it. So we'll just double check, make sure it doesn't squeeze out too much. That looks pretty good. Okay. You just squeeze out a little too much over here. You just got to kind of judge your repairs, because this was keyed in here, you know, and you know, if you try to Dremel in there with the rod and everything, you put that in there, that key might loosen up, and then it could probably pop out again. So sometimes it's better just to gut out that broken key, because this was a piece sticking out here, and then it was glued in like that. So you just got to kind of go with the flow and figure out what's your best option. But my experience is sometimes with those little keys, even though they have a little bit of glue on there, sometimes that glue will kind of waver off and pop back out. So I even do it with heads too. Like sometimes heads on statues, I'll take out the whole entire key if I have to do so. Alright, so with this one we're going to put some glue around here. I'm not going to try to do too much, just enough. Hopefully it doesn't cause an issue. So I think that's just enough to sort of kind of get there. Then we're going to pop this piece on like so. Make sure we're lined up good. We are. A little bit of glue squeezed out over here. A little bit of glue squeezed out over there. A little A squeezed out over there as well, but that will be touched in. So let's get our Instaset. And alright, now I'm going to let this set up for the night. And then what I might do is I'll come back tomorrow and I might kind of sand this down a little bit more, clean this up a bit, and also there as well. Because it's kind of hard to see where I'm at sometimes once you put the paint on. But we're looking pretty good. We're almost there. So let this cure up. Come back tomorrow. A little bit, and we'll see how it looks tomorrow. Alright? Alright, so I went ahead and I touched this up because I had some paint mixed up and I was working on something else, so I figured let me just get it done. So I got all this kind of cleaned up and it's ready to go, but we still got to fix up this tip here. He didn't know it was broken, I didn't know it was broken either, but it's possible that it could have happened in shipping, but I didn't see any little pieces. I checked the box, so maybe it just broke and he just never paid attention. But anyway, we're going to just fix it up. It's not a big deal. So you can kind of see it's not really, I don't know how well you can see, it's kind of not really a big piece that broke off, but it's still kind of a pain in the ass to break. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it in. I'm going to create like a flat circle on this. And then what I'll do is I'll go in the garage after this is cured, after I sand it down, and I'll drill a little hole through it. Because to sit there and try to make a little perfect hole up on that little piece with sculpting is a nightmare. So basically we're just going to do this. I'll show you. So I'm just going to put on a piece of Aves. We got some mixed up here. Don't really need a lot, but it's better to just try to create the piece up top and then let it cure and then sand it down and then drill that little tiny hole. So basically we don't need a lot on this edge, but it's better just to kind of over sculpt it and then sand it down afterwards. So it's because whenever you get something broken like this, it's just sometimes it's just impossible to sit there and try to re-sculpt it perfectly. You just can't do it. I mean, I've tried plenty of times with sculpts and it just doesn't work. So got to think of an easier way to do it. So all I'm doing is really just kind of sort of creating that tip again. And even if I build it up a little bit more than what it was, that's fine. But it's just a matter of just messing with it. So, and then kind of flatten it up like so. I'm gonna do this off camera. I gotta get a little bit closer and see it, but I'm just showing you guys what I'm trying to do. And then you see how that's done. So instead of sitting there right now trying to Dremel this hole out and try to get this perfect, what I'll do is I'll let this cure up, and then tomorrow what I'll do is I'll sand around it, and then I'll sort of sand on the flat part and get it perfect. And then what I'll do is I'll grab my Dremel tool and I'll grab a little Dremel bit and sort of just kind of drill a little tiny hole in there and to make it like it's like a hollow you know, tube and stuff. So that's the best way to repair this. And it's just easier, trust me. Sometimes I tried, like, I think there was a couple repairs back in the day that I sat there and I was like, oh my god, I'm trying to do this, and then the Aves is not working, and then it cures too long, and it just, you're better off just kind of fine-tuning it after it cures. That's kind of the way. So yeah, I gotta go in a little bit closer. I gotta see what I'm doing. I'm a little too far away from it. And then I'll come back tomorrow after I sanded it down. We'll touch it up real quick, and then we're pretty much done. Alright, it is the next day, and what I did is I sanded up this tip, and I Dremeled out a little bit in there. I didn't Dremel out a lot, because I figured if I went a little too crazy with it, I probably would get down there and hit something and screw it up. So I'll put a little bit of black paint in there, and it should be fine. Because there's no way... Basically, just let's not risk it, you know? Because the problem is if I take this part down a little bit more, and then I try to Dremel in there, the Dremel might actually start to split it open, and then it just breaks it all up again. But I think we kind of got it to where it should be, and we're looking pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and paint this up now. And then I pretty much went over it already, looked over everything. I think this is as good as we're going to get it without really messing anything up. I might have to just go in there and clean up a little spot in here with the Dremel tool, and then hit it with some paint. I'm gonna go do that right now, and I'm just kind of like looking over some stuff here, just kind of seeing if there's anything that needs to be kind of cleaned up. But all in all, we're looking good. Not really seeing anything else. I didn't see any major damages. A little spot here. I'll hit this with some paint for them. But, I mean, we're pretty much there. But actually, the more and more I look at it, though, like, if you really get in close with your magnifying glass headgear, you can see that the factory didn't really get a lot of super clean stuff. There is some stuff that looks good, but other stuff kind of eh. But I'm doing the best I can with the damages because it's a little bit tricky. But we'll go ahead and we'll touch this up. I'm going to go in the garage real quick and just clean up this little spot over there. And I think that is about it. Can't really see much more that I can do without going crazy. But no, I think we're looking pretty good. So I'll just go ahead and clean that up, and then I'll send off pictures and see if it's okay. And then after that, it'll be good to go. What I'll do is I will come back though. This is just straightforward. Hit it with some black paint and kind of, you know, whatever. I'll come back before I send it out, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with a block of foam. I got a lot of blocks of foam in my garage from a family member shipping stuff. They didn't want any of that stuff. So whenever I have like packing material, something like this, what I'll do is I'll create a block of foam, and I'll cut it out with my heat gun. And this way when I ship it back, it'll have a lot more security than just wrapping it up in bubble wrap. Okay, so I figured I'd show this off before we close out the video, because the gun is pretty much all set up. I went ahead and I touched up the paints on the tip, so you can see the tip is pretty much all painted up. I went around, looked over everything. I just got to do this one little spot right there, but I wanted to get this foam cut. So I was going to use the white foam blocks that I have, but I forgot I had a bunch of this sitting in a box that's a mess on my garage floor. So I figured let me grab a chunk of this out. So it's from a packing item I did for somebody a while back. When they sent me the item, they didn't want this box back, and we didn't send this back. So I kept the foam just for projects like this. So what I did is I marked it, I cut it, and I have this heat gun. You get these off of Amazon. This one's probably the best one I've used. The only problem though is when you have to cut into like white foam and you have to kind of get an angle, this doesn't really work. They have other foam pieces that have like loops and you can kind of just like scoop out stuff. I used that one a while back, but the problem was the bars kept bending and breaking, and then the whole thing was a mess. So I got something a little bit stronger. You can kind of do this type of stuff on the side. This stuff cuts really well. Basically you could just cut this and boom, it cuts in like 3 seconds. It's not a problem. But if you cut the white foam, the problem is the hotter the gun gets, the more like it melts and you get like a smoke coming up from the item. I only try to do that stuff when the garage door is open and outside and I wear a mask because I don't want to breathe in that melting foam. It is very strong. So that's just something to keep in mind. But so what I'll do is I'll wrap up this gun in some foam wrap that I have. I have these sheets of foam wrap and rolls. And what I'll do is I'll wrap the gun around. I'll place it in there so it doesn't like stick up above this flat part. And then what I do is that white foam that I have, like those blocks, I'll cut a piece and I'll put another piece on front and the back, and I'll tape it around, and I'll have a nice, good, secured item that could go back overseas, and we don't have to worry about any damages. So that's usually how I like to sort of send out repairs if I have the material. I don't always have blocks of material I can cut or foam blocks. Then I'll have to just do my typical foam wrap and wrap it up in bubble wrap and send it out. But I try to salvage as much of this foam stuff as I can. So if you're a collector and you get these black foam blocks or stuff from your items, and say you're the type of person that likes to throw away your box, or it came in as a kit, but when you put the kit together you can't really salvage it, it's good to hold on to this stuff for cutting out stuff and even storing, or if you're moving or whatever. So I just wanted to kind of share you that. Like, this is what I try to do as much as I can for repairs if I have the material. But all in all, we're pretty much done. I'm going to go ahead and just touch up that little piece real quick. I'm going to send him pictures, and if all goes well and he likes it, we'll get it out to him. But that is the repair of this gun. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with some more videos.